Hey friends, it's Bethany. Welcome back to week 3 of our summer challenge with getting to know our Cricut machines. I hope you've been having fun with week 1 and 2. And this week is super fun because we're going to be doing wood signs with a Cricut machine. Wood signs are one of my favorite things to do. It's an easy way to change out your home decor, but also a really fun way to decorate for every season throughout the year. So in this video, we are going to make a rather large wood sign. I kind of wanted to show you something on a bigger scale. That way you kind of know how to accomplish something that is a little bit larger, but for your challenge this week, you can make anything that you want. Go ahead and stay in your comfort zone. Do what makes you feel the most confident because I really want you to have fun with your wood sign this week. Okay, as always, everything that I'm using will be linked down below in the description box. Be sure you're also sharing your projects with me on Instagram if you'd like. You can use the hashtag Bethadilly inspired. It's a really fun way for you to interact with other crafters who are taking this challenge on and to share the work that you're doing each week. So go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you are ready to start week 3. I am really excited to show you today's project. It is super cute. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, let's go ahead and make a wooden sign. So this is one of the main reasons why I purchased my Cricut. I think I've been saying that every week during this challenge, but I think it's just that the Cricut can do so many things, and my main things were I wanted to do drinkware like coffee mugs. I do it all the time for teachers. And then I wanted to do t-shirts, but I also wanted to do wood signs because I love decorating my house, not only all the time, but for the seasons of the year, the holidays, and it's so fun to create with wooden signs. So I'm going to share how I am going to create this wooden sign for you today, and then I'm going to challenge you to do a wooden sign of your own. And remember, over on Instagram, you can share your creation that you've done this week using the hashtag Bethadilly inspired, and then you can have your image shared with me and with other crafters who are doing this challenge as well. All right, so here is the wooden sign that I'm using. This actually is, it's a shelf. I found this at, Hobby Lobby. That's right, Hobby Lobby. It is unfinished floating shelf, and it's in that unfinished wood section. And I have done a sign like this probably 2 or 3 times because I love how sturdy it is. You can set it up on its edge and it's nice and substantial. It's just a wonderful, wonderful blank for a sign. Now you can make signs of any shape and size. I have so many sign tutorials on my channel, and I also have sign tutorials on how you can do it with iron-on. So everything will be linked down below if you want to check out those videos, and I'll also link all the materials we're using to bring this sign together. But today we're doing adhesive vinyl. As you can see, this was a bare wood. I used my favorite chalk paint. It's the only chalk paint that I have ever used. It's wonderful, and I think I put about 2 to 3 coats on the surface. Then I used my husband's electric sander to add some distressing along the sides, and now it is ready for some vinyl. All right, let's go ahead and get a measurement for our sign. That way we can size our design appropriately in Design Space. So I'm grabbing my measuring tape here, and we have roughly, I'm just going to call that 24 inches. I know you need to be exact, but 24 is good for me by, let's just say 8. So 24 by 8. Okay, you can be more exact, but I think that's going to be just enough for where I'm going. Okay, let's go into Design Space, and I'm going to show you how you can create a template so that you can get your design sized just right for your project. Okay, here we are in Cricut Design Space. We are in the Canvas section, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the Upload, and I want to use a design that I've uploaded into Design Space. I'm going to use this one. It's really neat, and I think it is going to be perfect for this particular sign because of the shape. So I'm going to select it. You'll see that it's selected both by the green outline, but also if you come down here, it's a little tiny, but you'll see it right here too. It's kind of loaded in the queue. That way, if you had a variety of things you wanted to create, say you wanted to create all of these things, you could see them all waiting to be loaded into Design Space or into your canvas right here. So because I'm only doing my sign here, I'm going to have that one loaded, and then I'm going to say add to canvas. And now it's going to pull that SVG into Design Space. And as a reminder, I'll place links to everything that I'm using, the materials and the designs that I'm using in all of these videos. That way, if you want to recreate any of these looks for your own personal projects and challenges, then everything's down below. Okay, now let's create the template. So what I'm going to do is come over to Shapes. It's the fourth button down on the left. Click Shapes, and I am going to simply grab a square. Okay, now I'm going to come up to the size here, and I'm going to unlock it because I want to do a different width than my height. If I have it locked, it's going to stay at a square the whole time, but I want those to be individual of one another. Okay, so my width was it 24? I think it was 24 by 8. Okay, and that's rather big. So what I'm going to do is come down to the bottom left-hand side, and I can reduce the size of my canvas. That way I can see it a little bit easier. Okay, now because I loaded this first, it is going to go behind. So what I want to do is simply right-click, and then I'm going to say bring to front. That way this goes on top. Does that make sense? Okay, now what I'm going to do is use this template. This is just a pretend template of my sign, and I'm going to use that to decide how big I want my design to be. So I think I'll do a little bit smaller, but I think that to me looks great. Okay, now what I want to do is, now that I have the sizing down, I am going to take my template, and I can either delete it or I can just hide it. The hide button is just this little eyeball. If you have it selected over in your layers panel, you can just click that and it disappears. Now what I want to do is I want to make sure that my Cricut cuts out everything in the exact spot that I see it on this screen, because everything's centered and aligned just right. So I want to click on my design, or I could click on my design in the little layers panel right in Design Space, but then I want to click Attach. Okay, now this is telling my Cricut that I want everything to be cut out exactly as I see here. All right, we're ready to cut. That was super easy. So now I'm going to make sure that the machine I'm using is selected here. If not, I can click this arrow button and select the appropriate machine. And then I'm going to click Make It. Okay, now I'm going to tell my Cricut if I'm using a mat or if I'm using without a mat, which is for the Smart Materials only. I am actually using just regular Cricut vinyl, so I am going to do on a mat. And then I am going to use the 12 by 24 inch mat, which is automatically selected. You can see here, you can't even select this one because our design is too big for that mat. So it automatically defaulted to the appropriate size. I can click confirm, and then we will see a preview of our mat. Now we have a little banner that's just reminding us that our image is bigger than the 11.5, which would allow us to do a 12 by 12 mat. So I know that already. That's why we have the 12 by 24 mat selected. So I can select continue. It says if you select OK, you can continue with your larger mat. Okay, so we're good to go. You can see over here that we do have our larger mat. You can also see obviously in the preview that it is all ready to go. And now we can select continue. Now it's going to just locate my Cricut via Bluetooth. And then once it has located and connected, I can select the material I'm using. I will go ahead and select the Premium Vinyl Permanent Glossy setting. I'll select that, and then it will let me know what tools are needed. Nothing in Clamp A, but in Clamp B, the fine point blade will need to be loaded, and then we're ready to get our mat prepped and ready to cut. Okay, so now I'm using my 12 by 24 inch mat, and I want to remove the little protective liner. I like to keep the liner on my mats when I'm not using them. That way it helps just keep them clean, right? It helps the longevity of the mat, especially with the 12 by 24, which I find I usually have near the floor just because of its size. So I like to keep this on it every time it's not being used. All right, I'm gonna use a black premium vinyl. And yes, this is that permanent premium vinyl. I bought this in bulk a couple years ago. I think it was on sale, and it was right around Halloween time, which was really fitting because I feel like I was doing a lot of fun, spooky signs. Okay, I'm just gonna line this up. And there we go. Wonderful. Okay, now if you have any bubbles, as you can see those bubbles? We want to get rid of those. So I'm going to just kind of peel that up and go a little bit slower. Okay. Here we go. There. It's a little bit more graceful. Okay, we have a couple bubbles, but we're not going to worry about it. Okay, now let's open up the Cricut and we are ready to go. And I'm just going to leave the end of my roll there and I'll trim that off later. Okay. Now let's move this little guy out of the way. Going to need every inch of this desk today and load our mat. Okay, so it's all loaded, and what it did was make sure that the mat that I selected in Design Space, which is the 12 by 24, it was just making sure that that mat is loaded. And now we have that flashing plus sign, which means we can select go and begin cutting. Okay, it's all done cutting, so I can unload my mat. Close my machine here. Okay, and what I want to do is, because on the mat I can really see my design, it might be hard for you to see, but in person I can see that really well. Now, I know this makes some people nervous, and if you do not like doing this, then absolutely do whatever makes you most comfortable. But I'm simply going to use my True Control knife to cut out my design here, and I'm just not pressing hard enough to hurt my mat, but pressing enough to, whoops, cut my vinyl. Okay, I'm just going to double check that. Yep, okay. So now I'm going to do that this way, just because I feel like I can get a little bit of a straighter cut. Whoa. Hold on. About made an oopsie. It's just like last week. You know, sometimes it's the little dips in the Y's. I'm sure there's an actual name for that, but those can trip me up. Okay, but I didn't make a mistake. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this mat over, okay? And I'm going to bend my mat and allow my vinyl to stay flat and remove it that way. Okay, there we go. This is what I'm going to use for my design, and then I will remove this later, but this is what I have left over for another project. Now, I know that some of you also really like to weed on your mat, and if you do, that's wonderful. I personally try to avoid that, and that's just because I feel like if you do that, you are encouraging oils from your hands and additional, I don't know, dust and lint to get on the mat, which can help it lose its stickiness really quickly. So I personally avoid that, but you can absolutely do that if you find it easier. So I'm gonna have this lay nice and flat. What I like to do to help steady is once I grab a little corner, now this is the process of weeding. You'll just grab a weeding tool. They come in all shapes and sizes, just depending on your preference. But what I like to do is once I begin weeding out an area, just like this, I like to grab one of my magnets and just plop it down. And that helps steady it. So weeding, if you're new to weeding, it is, whoops, it's sticky. It's also one of, now this, I guess some people really feel this way and some people don't. For me, it's one of the most relaxing things to do. I have also had so many people tell me to leave the weeding process into my videos because they find it really gratifying to watch. So at least I'm not the only one, but I equally have many followers that find this to be so frustrating and their least favorite part. So whichever part you, or whichever side of the line, I guess, that you fall in for this, let me know. Let me know in the comments section. Do you love to weed vinyl, or do you find it to be not your favorite part. Okay, so now if you start getting a little overwhelmed, see how all this is so sticky? What you can do is you can pause, kind of find a nice break. You can grab a pair of scissors and you can snip off anything that you've weeded. Okay. That way you can kind of start over and get rid of a lot of that sticky. Okay. And shift that over a little bit. I'm going to start right where I left off. But now I don't have as much material to kind of fight with in that hand. And you can do that as many times as you need. Go in little sections, start over. Main thing you want to do here is take your time. Just take your time. Okay, isn't this a pretty design? Again, I'll link this down below. And this week, your challenge is to create a wooden sign. This does not mean you need to make the exact same sign that I do. You can do a little sign. You can do an even bigger sign. Whatever you want to do, whatever challenges you. Maybe it's something, maybe you've been making signs for a long time and maybe you haven't made a certain size that's been kind of challenging you lately, and that's where you take your challenge this week. And maybe you're making your very first sign period, which is super exciting. I remember making my first sign. Ugh, it's just so fun. Okay, getting this last little piece, and oh, we're almost done. Sticky, sticky. There we go. All right. Now, let's go through and grab all of these little middles, just like that. So yes, let me know about the weeding, if you like it or if you don't like it, because I think a lot of people equally feel either yay or nay. Seems like in the past when I've asked, everyone has a very clear opinion on it. Okay. Now, as a reminder, I also will place links to other sign videos that I have created down below so that, you know, after this video, if you are not quite ready to do the challenge this week and you want to watch a couple more videos on signs with the Cricut, then go ahead and do that. Watch away. It's so fun, and take your time and be gentle with yourself as you are learning your machine, or if you know your machine already and you're just trying a new craft with it, give yourself a little grace. All right, we are almost done, and there we go. Okay, I'm just gonna take that off. Now, what we wanna do is we want to transfer this to our sign. So what I want to do now is grab transfer tape, which will help me peel up and remove the vinyl from the cutting sheet that it was cut on, and then it will help me transfer it over to my sign in this case. That's why it's called transfer tape. All right, let me grab that and get it trimmed out, and then we'll continue. Okay, I'm going to move this out of the way. So I think we're going to need every little bit of space here. Now, this transfer tape is my absolute favorite. I think I shared this week 1 with you. It is a transfer tape that I purchased on an absolute whim, Black Friday on Amazon. I took a chance on it. It was a great price, and I've never looked back. It is amazing. I love it so much for so many reasons, but it's worth every penny. So it comes on a nice big roll, and it has a little backer on it. And the backer is so nice because it allows me to save my transfer tape in an easier way, because I can lay my transfer tape right back onto the backer once I'm done. And let's see, a graceful way to cut this side. There we go. And then I can save it and reuse it, which really helps bring down crafting costs when you redo and reuse. Okay. Trim this little piece off, and now we are ready to go. So when doing, there we go. When doing a longer design, I'm going to show you how I have found laying transfer tape down on something a little bit bigger or longer. to be a little bit more manageable and approachable. So let's see here. Let's move this up, move this down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reveal a little bit of my transfer tape, but I'm only going to do about 2 inches here. It's not an exact measurement. The goal here is that you just do a little bit. And I'm going to fold that cutting paper, or I'm sorry, that's not the cutting paper. It's just that liner. I'm going to fold that right below. I'm going to take my magnet and move it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay this down in small sections. Okay, there we go. Now, when I pull this way, I have that little piece that I folded, and I'm going to use that as kind of a handle to tug the rest of the transfer tape down. Okay, so my hand's going to go under there to grab that little piece. I'm going to pull, whoops, sorry for the noise. Lay that down. And then, inch by inch, we lay that transfer tape right over it. Okay. There we go. So that makes it so much easier, reduces bubbles. It's so much nicer because when you have such a big surface area of sticky and you're trying to, well, it can be a mess. So I like to just do something a little bit more manageable there. Okay, I'm going to take my scraper and burnish down. This is just going to press the vinyl and the transfer tape together. Just encourage it to meet up really nicely. This is a part of the process you want to just take your time with. Okay. And Cricut makes a scraper as well. They make this. They also make it on a smaller scale. I personally don't prefer it. I don't know. I just feel like it's easier to use for some reason. Okay. Now I'm going to peel this up, turn it around, and I'm going to do the same thing on the back. Okay, now with it still the side down, I'm going to take my time and start removing that cutting sheet, leaving my vinyl right on my transfer tape. Now, key word is taking your time, and you might have to nudge some little pieces into place. I personally prefer to use the Oracle vinyl, and I use it probably 95% of the time, although I bought this Cricut vinyl on sale, and I don't know, I just feel like the Oracle is a little bit easier to work with, and everybody has their preferences, and you will too as you work with new materials. You'll find what you like. Okay, oops, hold on. Put that back in there. There we go. Now, same thing. If you get a little overwhelmed, you can take your liner, trim it off. Sometimes it just gets too long, too overwhelming. You can just start over. Be careful that you are mindful of tiny punctuation, like a little comma. Oh, they can be quite tricky, but there you go. Okay. There we are. And just continue to nudge as you need to and encourage the vinyl to stay. And there we go. All right. Now, we're going to place it on our sign. But because, just like I had a little trick for my transfer tape, because we're doing something on such a larger scale, I'm going to show you a trick for getting it all placed on a large sign really evenly. Okay, so let's bring our sign in. Here it is. And I'm just going to bring this up and place it this way. All right, we are all ready, and I'm gonna grab some parchment paper. Now, this is just kitchen parchment paper, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it onto the sticky side of my transfer tape, and I'm going to lay it everywhere. I'm going to cover it completely except for like a little area. I want to have some sticky remaining. And what's great about parchment paper is the design won't stick to it, okay? And it's also clear enough so that when we turn this around, we have our design on the parchment paper now, we can move this freely around our project and get it all centered before we commit to laying it down. You can see how you can see through that so that you can get it all lined up. So what I'm going to do is, again, I have a little bit of exposed transfer tape here because I'm going to use that to be my anchor or my starting point. So I'm going to get this nice and centered, both side to side, up and down. I am just going to measure. This is about, okay, so maybe just bring that up a hair. Let's see here. Okay, that looks good, and I like it left to right. So what I'll do now, move this out of the way, I'm going to press this down. Okay, and I'm also going to just kind of rip this so that I can get a full little area down. Okay, there we go. Okay, now what I like to do is I like to kind of, let's see, pull my design a little bit. I'm just going to kind of pull that parchment paper and start laying this down little by little. Okay, let's just kind of pull some more, lay that down. And there are so many different ways that you can do this. This is just a really neat way, an easy way, with something that you probably have in your house, right? Okay, there we go. Now, I'm just going to come back through with my scraper and really burnish. Taking my time with each little section, making sure those letters all lay down but also don't have any bubbles in them. Okay, that should be good. Now, oops, I got a little bit of vinyl still on there. Now just very gently, because you can scratch your paint if you're not careful. It's not the end of the world. Just grab some of your paint that you used to paint the background, if you did use paint, and just touch it up. I've done it multiple times, and it's okay. Now sometimes when you are using transfer tape on a painted surface, it can kind of make your transfer tape cloudy. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that it might not have as many uses, say as if you were reusing transfer tape that you used on glass or something. So just so you know, you can kind of see that film there. But I will try to reuse this a couple times. But now I'm just peeling that off, and we have our design right on our wood sign. There we go. All right, there is our sign. I hope that was helpful for you, and I hope you are inspired to take the challenge for week 3. And I hope you've been having fun with week 1 and week 2 as well. If you missed those videos, be sure to just rewind, go back. You can still join in the challenge. It's super fun, but also make sure to use that hashtag Bethadilly Inspired, I had to think of it, Bethadilly Inspired over on Instagram. That way you can share what you are challenged to create this week in terms of making a wood sign. All right, everyone, be sure to give this a thumbs up if you found this helpful, if you found this fun to watch, or if you picked up a new trick. I am always happy to inspire you, and I can't wait to join you next week. Next week, we are going to be using the Cricut pens. I'm really excited because those are so fun. It's a crowd pleaser. Everybody loves the Cricut pens, and they're really, really neat to use. All right, everyone, I'll see you next week.